Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 88 today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the previous episode then at the Chinese Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But coming into this one then, finally we've got our first upgrade of the season on the car. Obviously the minor rear downforce upgrade. We tried to purchase it for last episode, it failed going into China, so we had to repurchase it at the end of last episode, and so finally we get off the mark then from the base car where we started off at Australia. But going into this one then, Renault with a major upgrade of their own there, so they get ahead of McLaren as the best car on the grid now going into this one, so they might be pretty damn good on the straights. But McLaren, you know, especially Alonso, look really dominant at China, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously Baku, long motorway pit straight, so it's going to be pretty much a drag race the entire race long, and qualifying also might pay a lot of dividends into the qualifying lap, but we'll have to see about that. Toro Rosso also makes some strides there to try and match Mercedes in the R&D, but we're going to go ahead and move straight into qualifying one then. We had to do two different runs actually in Q1, or I say attempted to try to do two runs in qualifying one, because I started off my first lap, we finished that, and we went on for another consecutive lap basically, like we've done a couple of times at the end of season 4, where we just go for another lap basically, and usually there's enough fuel for 2 laps on the trot basically, even if I put it to the least amount of fuel in the car. But this time, unfortunately, because you're on the throttle for so long around Baku, I actually ran out of fuel. I was on low fuel mode at the end. Thankfully though, my first lap time was actually good enough to get through into Q2. You can see there Vettel gets through as well, a bit slower than me, but I think he used a different compounded tyre, but thankfully that was enough. I was a little bit scared that, oh god, I've stuffed this up, I've not put enough fuel in the car, and now we're going to get knocked out. It was all fine, so we're going to Q2. Then as the sun comes down, it looks slightly overcast as well, but I think that's just the amount of shadows that get put around the circuit with the high walls of Azerbaijan. But we come through then, and we get up into actually the fastest of the session, and Vettel gets up into P2. So really strong showing in Q2, and gave me a lot of confidence maybe going to the top 10 shootout that our car is actually working amazing. And so again, I want to use the word baffling, because last episode, if you did watch that, our car was nowhere. It was an absolute dog, and it seems like we've turned up, and like last season a lot of the time, it's just turned into an amazing car, and I have no answer for it apart from, I think obviously we still have technically the best engine on the grid outright still. We may be lacking in other departments on the car, but we do have the best engine outright, so I think that's really just playing a big factor. I think we're probably just gaining a lot of time on every single straight, and we're probably losing time every single corner, but the time we gain on the straights is negating the time we lose in said corners. So yeah, our car's going pretty damn well. So actually last episode, it was an episode to forget pretty much in terms of the performance of myself and Sebastian Vettel. This episode, it might be for both of us, me and Sebastian, a very good session as we run to the end of the line then on our flying lap in Q3. We go across the line for a provisional pole position. At that stage, I was ecstatic. At the end of the session, we do go down one place, unfortunately, though, because Fernando Alonso beats us to pole position there. But you can see how close it is between myself and my former McLaren teammate from Season 3 there. Vettel right up there in P3. It's a 2-3 for Ferrari. That is an amazing turnaround and a bounce back after what was a horrendous Chinese Grand Prix there. And so I'm feeling really good and looking forward to this race after I was kind of dreading how the rest of the season might pan out after that dismay at Shanghai. So let's get into Sunday. We have a very good chance of potentially even going for the race win if we can maybe try and hound down Alonso. We know how fast he's going to be, but if we can try and get him at the start, we have a good chance to maybe do some good stuff on the strategy and pull this through. So let's go to the race then and see what happens.
Good afternoon and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. So let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Baku City Circuit then, an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Now I want to ask you about Charles Leclerc. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be, it's about effective damage limitation.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. What a qualifying from Fernando Alonso. He starts from pole position, and the engineer completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly and Sainz, Hartley, Hamilton, Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo, Van Dorn, Perez, Marcus Ericsson and Bottas, Magnussen, Grosjean, Charles Leclerc and Lance Stroll, Sirotkin and Esteban Ocon rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Right, so no penalties to talk about, so we do indeed line up here in second place on the front row of the grid. No other car ahead of us apart from that safety car parked up there. Fernando Alonso alongside us on the right-hand side on that pole position. Strategy-wise, the default is a two-stop, ultra-soft tyres to two sets of supers, but I think because of the tyre wear that we did show in Bahrain, I have a feeling we may be able to try a bit more of an audacious one-stop and go into soft tyres, stretch the ultras a little bit longer, and that will give us ultimately track position. I think against Alonso, that is the only way we can maybe win, and especially also the other McLaren of Van Dorn. I mean, just generally in this track, I think track position is going to be key for us today, so I think we might try that, but as usual, we'll kind of play it on the fly and see how it goes in the race. If the scenario seems like it's going to work out, we'll do that. If not, we'll revert to the default two-stopper. Here we go then, to 5 red lights to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix from the front row of the grid. Alonso alongside us. 5 red lights are out, and we're on the way for 26 laps around Baku. It's a good start for us, actually, into turn 1. Can we maybe get Alonso? Ooh, very, very close there. We nearly had a lock up on the front left, and Alonso does really well to pinch us, so fair play. Off pole, he does well and maintains first place. Vettel maintains third, so that's good for us. So it's still a 2-3 for Ferrari, but now, since we haven't got Alonso into turns 1 or 2, it's about sticking behind him in the rest of the lap and pretty much now trying to wait patiently to get him on the back straight as we move on to lap 2. That is exactly what we're going to do as we wind through the kind of S section, if you will, here at Azerbaijan. We line ourselves up with overtake mode. Rich Mix going no DRS just yet in this Grand Prix, but we won't need it really, because look at how much speed we're gaining here. It is always a ridiculous time to come to Azerbaijan as the cars fly down this main straight here in this slipstream. We're up into first place. We set the fast lap of the Grand Prix whilst doing it, of course, being the first man to even cross and finish the opening lap, and we are now in the lead of this Grand Prix here in Baku. Alonso P2, Vettel is fighting, but I think he might have lost P3. Yes, he has there as we swing through that camera shot. It's Hülkenberg that is up into P3, so familiar rivals already right up here in this Grand Prix, and Alonso now is going to send one back down the inside, and we've not done the best job in the brake zone to try and come back at him, but we are going to try it on the exit of that left-hander into the right. We're very close there, nearly squeezed Alonso's right into the barrier there with a bit of a lock-up on the right tyre, and Alonso though manages to dance around us up into P1, so a great scrap now at the moment here, just like old time's sake in Season 3 really at the moment. I don't think me and Alonso ever actually fought at Azerbaijan where we're in the same car, but now it's happening here in Season 5, Ferrari v McLaren, and we're going to move on now to the end of lap 2, and once again this same exact part of the track. You're going to have to get used to it, because I think there's going to be plenty of overtakes in this exact same part of the track this entire race long, and look how far back we are, but then just look how much we're going to gain here. Overtake mode, Rich Mix going, still no DRS yet because it's only activated on this next lap, lap 3, and still we'll gain enough on Alonso here just about into the brake zone of turn 1, so maybe try and pop round the outside. We go late braking there on the outside. Alonso with a little lock up on the front right, but it's going to be a beautiful move if we can actually pull this off there the long way round, but we lock up on the left front. I tried to cut in earlier there to try and get a bit of a switchback move and try to plant the power earlier. It kind of backfired in my face there because I locked up a bit too much and lost too much momentum, and so we're going to have to stick behind in P2 with the Hülkenberg now closing up and pressurising us somewhat as we now move on to lap 4. DRS is available this time. We could make a late move now as Alonso goes defensive, but we're going to swing back on him, and it's going to be a great move there down the inside of Alonso. Did the dummy on him. It looked like the way he was defending, he was fully prepared for me to go on the outside. We sold him the dummy, and we're up into first place now with a very tasty move, and now he's got Nico Hülkenberg for some company here, and so now it might just become a three-way scrap between Fernando Alonso, Nico Hülkenberg and myself as we move on towards lap 4. Alonso and Hülkenberg are right there in the slipstream, and so this might be a three-way fight. Alonso is going to be on the left, Hülkenberg is going to come through eventually on the right with a double toe there, and there we are, 3 wide into turn 1. Amazing scenes here. Renault, Ferrari, McLaren, we're on the inside. It's very close stuff. A lock up on the front life. We narrowly narrowly missed, slamming into the side of Hulkenberg there, and Alonso ultimately gets pinched off into turn 1 and is left fighting with the other Renault of Carlos Sainz and Sebastian Vettel, who's going to try and overtake up into P3 there. So good to see Seb didn't fall off completely in that stint 1, and then behind Carlos Sainz are the Toro Rosso and the Red Bull car, so they're still in the fight as Vettel finds a way around the outside maybe of Alonso, but ultimately can't make it work there. Those two bitter rivals going at it, nice to see, but now eventually we move on later. Alonso's managed to find his way back up into P2 at this stage now on the lap, and Vettel's actually the one side by side with Hulkenberg there, the two Germans scrapping into the castle section. They want to get this move done before they enter the actual castle corner, and Vettel is going to be on that, just about gets ahead. I was almost a little bit scared those two might have tried to go side by side, because I don't think that's ever been possible really. That section's way too narrow, and so it's the four-time champion that gets ahead of the one-time champion Hulkenberg, of course, winning it last season, if you didn't know, if you're not caught up on the series. But now we move on towards lap 7. Alonso in the tow, trying to make a move, but you also got Vettel there coming through with a lot of speed. Alonso comes in for an early pit stop, and now Vettel is the one fighting me. Ferrari v Ferrari into turn 1. He's on the outside. We bang tyres there. We get a little bit frosty with the elbows out because I want to maintain the lead, and I wasn't prepared really for my teammate to come and chase me. I was already having enough fighting with Alonso and Hulkenberg, let alone Vettel, but Alonso's come in then on lap 7 effectively for an early pit stop. I'm going to continue going on at least for 2 more laps, I would say, and that's exactly what we do as we come towards lap 9, but we're going to come in before we cross the line for our pit stop, and we're going to go into a set of soft tyres. Like I said, we're going to be trying the 1 stop. I know Alonso has gone on to another set of ultra soft tyres, so he is definitely doing a 2 stop here. And so like I said, I think track position is going to be the way we win this Grand Prix, because Alonso's already got some undercut. He will be ahead of us as we come out the pit lane here, and so track position and doing 1 less pit stop is going to be the way we can try and go about winning this Grand Prix, because I think Alonso has too much raw speed on those tyres actually when he's not in kind of traffic with me. You can see there he's ahead of both Toro Rossos, who I just come out behind, and I come out ahead of Hulkenberg thankfully. So now all we've got to do is try and overtake the 2 Toro Rossos, and then we've got some clean air to work with. But at the moment it's actually a 1-2 for McLaren, because Van Dorn is out in the lead, yet to pit. He started on super soft tyres, and so that's how it's a 1-2 for McLaren. But one of those McLarens yet to pit in this Grand Prix, as now we try and close up to the 2 Toro Rossos, but those two having a great scrap there, both of them on super soft, so they're going long as well. Maybe trying a 1 stop in this Grand Prix. Gasly at the moment I think is the one that leads the pairing there, so Hartley the one behind, but he does some good slipstreaming here. He pulls to the right hand side, trying to maybe overtake his French teammate there on the outside. Gasly goes very defensive. Really nice battle between these two there, and you can see unfortunately for me that just means I'm left stuck here in traffic and I'm unable to do anything. But thankfully we move on to lap 10, where Gasly's gotten away from Hartley enough where there's not enough slipstream for the Kiwi man to kind of gain on the straight, and so with DRS we're going to close up enough to make a pop with ERS Ultra and overtake mode and rich mix going here. Although actually we put it to standard mode there to try and save some fuel, because it's inevitable we're going to make the overtake now into turn 1 of lap 11, and now we're tucked up right behind Gasly to maybe make the move, and we get a little bit wide on the curbing there, so not ideal. We come through with so much speed into turn 1 it's kind of hard to stop the car sometimes, but we come through now at the end of that same lap 11 onto lap 12, this same exact place now, but this time might be on the left hand side instead of the right. Let's see, yeah, Gasly remains on the right, so we pull to the left this time with overtake mode and DRS. A nice easy pass up into what is going to be P3 now, with the McLaren still 1-2, but we're very wide there for a second time now, and so much on the curbing we didn't get the traction that Gasly has sent one back down the inside there, and we get squeezed into the wall by Pierre. So very close stuff, and so no love lost between myself and Pierre Gasly on the F1 games here from Codemasters, as Gasly goes around the outside trying to make the overtaking move, and we are just about hanging on to this. The soft tyres, I can't lie, aren't really gripping in too much, and so I'm feeling like I've got a lot of understeer compared to Gasly at this stage, even though his super soft tyres are quite warm, but we eventually do hold it through thankfully. And so on towards lap 13, we're in P2 because Van Dorn has finally made his 1 and only pit stop of the Grand Prix onto soft tyres, but Gasly now annoyingly with enough pace to close up on us once again to try and make the overtake. So we're already going at it now for 3 laps now. This battle's been brewing as we're on the outside of turn 1. We're going to have to go the long way around again. We try and feed the power through in 3rd gear on the curb. We get a little bit wayward on the oversteer, a little bit bit of a twitch here and there. Gasly still on the outside. He goes across the curve, forces us towards the wall once more, but we do find it again in P2. And there this time Hartley's now joined the fight, and so we look behind and try to see where on earth Hartley's going to place his car. We're going to kind of go a little bit in the middle and go a little bit early on the brakes and try and just defend our places. Now Gasly has to try and fight his teammate, but eventually now we're going to get away from those two. And in lap 14, Alonso comes in for his second pit stop of the afternoon, as also Vettel comes in. And so now I lead the way. Second place is Stoffel Vandoorne. Third place, Alonso. And these two will actually now go hammer and tong. Vandoorne, though, on soft tyres. Same tyres as me, same strategy as me. Apart from, obviously, he went longer on super softs on the first stint rather than ultra soft tyres. And Alonso's on the faster compound of super soft tyres. But these two were very equally matched, actually. And Vandoorne doing me a solid of trying to fight his teammate as much as he can. The two still go side by side through that left-handed. So the more these guys fight, the better for me of just trying to go to the end of this Grand Prix now, because eventually my tyres will be a little bit worse for wear compared to Alonso's fresher super soft tyres. But Vandoorne still keeps his nose in there, and the two are still at it here as we go through the right-hander. Alonso, though, just finds it through. And so towards onto lap 17, 9 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Alonso will try and overtake us now for the race lead, and so this is a very crucial fight to keep ahead of him. We do so into turn 1, and it's just crucial. The longer we can delay this, the better for me, because then Alonso's tyre is going to start to wear, and so he has a worse chance of overtaking me as we move on through this Grand Prix. Then lap 22 this is, and Vettel now is going to come flying through. He was initially P5 up into P4. He might even try and get P3, P2 even, as he sends one down the inside. It's 3 wide between the two Ferraris here and the McLaren of Vandoorne. Alonso's come in for another pit stop for some reason. I don't know if he got into altercation with Vandoorne maybe, but he's come in for an earlier pit stop, and so now it's myself, Vandoorne, Vettel in third place trying to close up on us, but Vandoorne is the one really attacking us now for P1 in this Grand Prix with 4 laps remaining. It's oh so close between the top 5 there. Myself, Vandoorne, Vettel, Ricciardo and Hulkenberg I don't think is too far off as well there in the background, but we still maintain the lead. Vandoorne P2, and now I think that's Ricciardo that's nipped up into third place ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and then you've got Hulkenberg behind in a German 4-5. But the fight will continue on to lap 23. We're going to be a sitting duck, remember. The leader with no DRS, Vandoorne, with the open flap on his rear wing, is pulling through the left-hand side. We also start to derate on the ERS there as he run out of deployment, but we're on the outside, lock up on the front line, off circuit a little bit. We come back on, though, on the curbing, and Vandoorne, though, still maintains the race leading into turn 2. He forces us to hit the wall a little bit there. Very frosty. That could have been a Force India kind of incident there if Vandoorne squeezed any harder. We're trying to catch the toe of Vandoorne without also squeezing Verstappen into the wall there, and now we're trying to try and find our way around the outside. It's such an amazing fight. You've got 4 cars so close together. Vandoorne, myself, Vettel and Verstappen now, and so I apologise. I think that was Verstappen's car. Must have been the entire time then, actually. I thought it was Ricciardo all along. It was Verstappen then, was the Red Bull fighting Vettel initially on lap 22, but on lap 23 here we maintain the lead. Vandoorne P2, Verstappen P3, but Vettel is going to come through. Look at that, he's in the background. There is Ricciardo finally in the background. Ricciardo's P5 then, so finally we see where the Aussie man is, but there goes Vettel and Vandoorne. Vandoorne on the outside, Vettel on the inside. Vandoorne, though, unable to make the overtake, but Vettel does make it work on Verstappen there, and also goes for the move on Vandoorne. It's a fantastic dive, and Vettel makes a 2-car overtake in 2 corners. Amazing stuff there, but it's not over. It's a drag race now to the next left-hander down this second DRS straight there. Vandoorne tries to pull alongside an overtake. A lock-up, though. Puff of smoke comes off the tyre, and Vettel does get it up into P2, and so amazingly it's a 1-2 for Ferrari now. P3's Vandoorne, P4 Verstappen, P5 Ricciardo, but Ricciardo now might try and overtake his teammate on this back straight, as also Vettel might on myself. It's the battle of the teammates here, minus Vandoorne, because his teammates pit now for an extra pit stop in this Grand Prix. But on to lap 25, here comes Vettel now. So Ferrari v Ferrari for the second time into turn 1 here. We're on the inside, lock up on the front left, and we just have enough on the inside there to push Vettel wide, and we're going to maintain P1. But for how long? Because we go through the castle section onto the double left-hander towards that very awkward left-hander. Vettel is going to come charging here. We're in hot lap mode, but despite that, Vettel's got a great exit as Leclerc retires. Vettel dives it down the inside. Double lock up on the tyres, and we're nearly put into the wall there. So a bit frosty between us two teammates here in the Scuderia Ferrari car, and Vettel now takes the lead of the Grand Prix. We're going to have to try and switch back on in there and get back in the slipstream there. So it's myself v Vettel now on towards lap 26. This will be the last lap of the Grand Prix. We're going to be side by side as we go into that last lap, and Ricciardo and Van Dorn are going to be very close. This is absolutely incredible. Such a high-speed battle going on to the last lap of a Grand Prix between 4 cars here, nearly 5 you count both Red Bull cars. But there goes Van Dorn, Vettel and Ricciardo, 3 wide. Ricciardo almost goes down the inside of 3 cars because he tries to overtake me and take the race lead. He's on the inside. He's technically just ahead in the race lead by a whole car length, as we have to now try and go around his outside. Van Dorn P3, Vettel down to P4 with Verstappen P5. We're back up into first place though. We got the traction on the Aussie man, and now Ricciardo and Van Dorn will go side by side through the left-hander, and Ricciardo will be relegated, I think, just about down to P3. But Ricciardo's done well there in the last 2 laps to go from P5 to P3 there, overtaking his teammate and also Sebastian Vettel. Nearly had me and nearly had the race lead there for at least a corner or two, as now Van Dorn sends one down the inside in the same place Vettel did. And again, I nearly get put into the wall for about the 3rd, 4th time in this Grand Prix, as Van Dorn now is in the same exact position as Sebastian Vettel was on the previous lap in that same place on the track. But I'm confident I'm not going to lose this. We come through the final corner, a slingshot onto the back straight. We'll have the DRS, but we don't even need it because we've got this slipstream, ERS on overtake mode, rich mix going. And so on the last lap of the Grand Prix, on the last straight, we get it up into P1, and there's nothing more to say. You guys know what I'm going to say. It's going to be grazie ragazzi, Forza Ferrari, the 2nd win of the season.
A great win then for the Maranello team today. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here.
The difference was clearly in the strategy. You could tell they'd done a lot of work on the pit wall to really optimise each stint and get the most out of the tyres. And it highlights just how much of a team sport this really is. And the credit to the driver as well though, there's no good having a well-oiled machine behind the scenes without a talented hand on the wheel, of course.
So here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
What an absolutely bonkers 4th round of the season there. The top 5 covered by 1 second across the line. Absolutely ridiculous. And what a topsy-turvy season. I thought season 4 was up and down, up and down. We've had 2 wins now in this season so far after 4 races, and we're not somehow leading the Grand, and we're somehow actually not even leading the championship because we've had such poor races in round 3 and also a pretty mediocre round 1 by all things considered compared to our 2 wins. Yeah, 2 wins, and we're only actually 2nd in the championship. It kind of just shows how good of a job Dan Ricciardo's done. He's quietly just done his business and has got into the top 4 or 3 every single race so far, and so he is Mr. Consistency so far. Usually I'm the one who's the most consistent out of everyone in the grid order, but Ricciardo's Mr. Consistency so far in Season 5 as he leads the way still, despite me having 2 wins there. Absolutely bonkers, but absolutely crazy. I'd have it no other way in terms of, you know, having those 2 race victories. It's worth the calamities we had last race. It's worth it all in all, because what a Grand Prix victory that was, and what a last 4 laps that was. Absolutely amazing stuff there. Constructors wise, we're also still only 2nd place. Red Bull maintain 1st place because both Verstappen and Ricciardo once again score well, so we're going to have to work on our consistency at Ferrari with myself and Vettel there if we want to try and actually make a sustained kind of imprint on the championship. But 2 wins here in the first 4 rounds. I'm not complaining at all there. Last episode, as I said, that's completely worth it now after this race victory. I'll take another one of the Chinese Grand Prix just to have another race victory like that in the race after that, because that was absolutely amazing. And so we're going to go through for the last interviews there. First time we're having an interview really, I think, post-race here, and there's actually something nice to talk about for once.
Great work out there today. How do you think it went? You took the top points today. Was it a comfortable win?
I wouldn't say it was a comfortable win by any means of the stretch of imagination there, but we're going to go with the bottom answer and say the car really took some, because we nearly got put into the wall about 5 times there, so going to compliment the durability.
You must be thrilled to be up on the podium.
Absolutely thrilled, obviously, to not only be in the podium, but to take the race win. I got to put it down to our aero package. I think the mine upgrade did actually make a lot of difference there.
Well, looks like your luck has changed. Things went a lot better than last weekend, didn't they?
And again, we're going to take this chance to just answer in a way that's going to complement the aero package of the car and the department there.
You're surpassing all expectations. Can anything or anyone stop you?
And finally, we'll kick it off with a bit of a showmanship answer saying, you know, unless there's an immovable object, I don't see it happening.
Great. Well, that's everything.
And so all round, a fantastic day for Ferrari, especially myself. Obviously, Vettel, unfortunate, got not to get on the podium there in the end, despite having nearly a 1-2 for Ferrari. But, you know, the way he overtook me and then was in the lead, he was such a sitting duck there on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix. Actually, you know, a lot of the times in Baku, you don't want to be out in the lead at the very end of the Grand Prix unless you have a major gap to your rivals there. But we get 600 extra points in the R&D points department there for meeting our objectives. And so a really great episode there. And in the end, we get a reputation boost with the team, so we can negotiate a better contract than the one we had before with the team. It's still not an amazing contract, but it's better than the one we were, and so it's kind of nice to be back in the good books with Ferrari a little bit, but we still have a lot of work to do. The reputation still isn't that great. They're very tough employees. Like I said, I think we're almost going to have to win like a couple of races back-to-back at some point this season to actually get the reputation up to a high level there once again. But with those extra points, we have more than enough now to afford the ultimate drag reduction update, and so in 3 races time, I believe, that comes in. That is going to be an amazing upgrade there at the Canadian Grand Prix. That is going to be such a godsend, because our car clearly still has a lot of power. It just lacks a bit of kind of drag reduction, basically, and so once that comes in, we can run lower wings or just compromise on the wings, basically, and still be good in a straight line. So that's going to be really awesome. I did have a debate about doing another upgrade, but ultimately, I want to continue going deeper into the aerodynamics tree once we've done this upgrade, so I'm going to save my points and kind of spend it later on when it's worthwhile in the European part of the season. So guys, if you did enjoy that race and did enjoy that second race victory for Ferrari there this season, be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I've been Alfa. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.